They say the most powerful prison is not made of bricks, but of ignorance. And the most powerful wings are not made of feathers, but of knowledge. Every single day, what you choose to feed your mind determines the freedom you will taste tomorrow. We often think freedom is about breaking chains outside of us, but real liberation begins inside. It begins the day you realize that your mind is capable of carrying you to places your feet may never reach. Knowledge is not just information. It is not just what you read in a book or hear in a classroom. Knowledge is an awakening. It is the moment you see the world differently because of a new perspective. It is the strength you feel when you understand that you don't have to accept everything the way it is. You can question, you can challenge, you can rise above the limits that people, society, or even your own doubts have placed upon you. And the beauty of knowledge is this: nobody can take it away from you. They can take away your possessions, your wealth, your comfort. They can silence your voice. But they cannot erase what you have learned, what you have experienced, and what has shaped your inner world. That is why knowledge is liberation. It frees you from dependence, from helplessness, from fear. It gives you the courage to say, I may not have everything, but I have the power to learn, to grow, and to rise. When you decide to educate yourself daily, you are making a commitment to freedom. Think about it's every page of a book you read, every podcast you listen to, every meaningful conversation you engage in. It is not just about collecting words, it is about unlocking doors. Imagine a life where you stop learning. The walls close in, the options shrink, and suddenly, you are trapped inside the same story, the same patterns, the same limitations. But the moment you decide to learn even one small thing daily, you push those walls back. You make space for possibility. I want you to imagine a young girl in a small town with big dreams. She doesn't have the resources. She doesn't have access to elite schools. She doesn't have mentors holding her hand. But she has curiosity. She has hunger. She has a library of books she borrows, maybe torn and old, but filled with ideas that ignite her spirit. Every night she reads by a dim light, and every morning she feels freer than the day before. That is the power of knowledge. It makes the powerless powerful. It makes the voiceless heard. It makes the invisible visible. Knowledge is not reserved for the privileged. It belongs to the seeker. It belongs to the one who refuses to settle. It belongs to the one who understands that life itself is a teacher and every moment is a lesson. The failures that broke you, the heartbreak that shattered you, the rejection that left you empty, all of them are forms of knowledge. They are lessons written not in ink, but in scars. And those scars, when read correctly, become maps toward resilience and strength. When you begin to value knowledge as liberation, you stop waiting for opportunities to come knocking. You start creating them. You stop saying, I can't because I don't know, and instead you say, I will know because I will learn. That shift is the essence of empowerment, because ignorance keeps you chained to fear. But knowledge teaches you that fear is nothing but the unknown dressed in shadows. And the moment you shine the light of understanding, fear begins to disappear. Do you realize how powerful that makes you? Every piece of knowledge you gain is like a key in your hand, a key that opens a door to a new possibility, a new strength, a new vision of yourself. Without those keys, life feels like a maze, confusing and endless. But with them, you begin to see pathways where others see dead ends. You begin to climb when others give up. You begin to fly when others are still crawling. And here is the truth. Daily self-education is not about becoming someone else. It is about unmasking the person you already are. It is about peeling away the layers of doubt, fear, and limitation that have been taught to you by others. When you learn, you are not just filling your mind with facts. You are remembering your power. You are reclaiming your voice. You are setting yourself free from the prison of I can't, and stepping into the freedom of I will. So, every single day, ask yourself, what will I learn today that will make me freer tomorrow? What wisdom will I collect that will remind me that my mind is my greatest weapon, my truest friend, and my most faithful companion on this journey? Knowledge is not for the elite. It is for the willing. It is not for the chosen few. It is for the ones who choose themselves. And if you choose to learn daily, you are choosing liberation, not just for your mind, but for your soul. We live in a world where people are obsessed with instant results. We want success overnight. We want transformation in a week. We want recognition without repetition. But the truth is, nothing great is built in a day. The tallest tree you admire today once began as a tiny seed, and that seed didn't demand the sky in a single night. It grew slowly, quietly, consistently. That is the secret no one wants to hear. Greatness is not about doing something big once. It is about doing something small again and again until it becomes unshakable. Consistency is the quiet power that turns dreams into reality. It is the daily discipline that whispers, "Show up even when you don't feel like it." Intensity burns bright but fades fast. Consistency may look small, but it never stops burning. It is the steady flame that keeps you warm through the coldest nights of doubt and despair. Think about it, we all get motivated once in a while. We all get excited when inspiration hits. But motivation is like a spark. It ignites quickly and disappears just as quickly. If you depend only on motivation, you will stop as soon as the fire dies out. But consistency is different. Consistency is not about how you feel. It is about who you decide to be every single day. It is the promise you make to yourself that you will not quit, even when no one is watching, even when no one is clapping, even when you don't see results yet. I remember someone once asked me, "How do you stay strong?" And I told them, strength is not a gift you are born with. Strength is a muscle you build. Just like in the gym, one workout will not transform you. You cannot lift weights once and expect to be strong forever. It is the repetition, the daily practice, the decision to return again and again that shapes your body and your mind. The same rule applies to learning, to healing, to growing, to building anything meaningful in life. Consistency is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Imagine if you read just 10 pages of a book every day. At first, it feels like nothing. But in a year, you will have read more than 3,000 pages. That's dozens of books. Imagine if you practice gratitude for just 5 minutes every day. At first, it feels small. But in a year, you will have rewired your brain to notice blessings instead of burdens. Imagine if you walked for just 20 minutes daily. At first, it feels ordinary. But in a year, your health, your energy, your spirit will be transformed. That is the magic of consistency. It hides its power in small beginnings. It looks insignificant in the moment, but it builds silently until one day you look back and realize how far you have come. And that is why intensity alone cannot sustain you. Intensity is like running a marathon on the first day and then quitting for months. Consistency is like walking a mile every day until one day, without even realizing it, you have covered thousands of miles. The problem is we underestimate small efforts. We think if it's not dramatic, it doesn't count. But greatness is hidden in the ordinary. A drop of water may look weak, but drop after drop, it carves stone. A single brick may seem small, but brick by brick, it builds palaces. Consistency is the quiet architect of your destiny. And yes, it will be hard. Because consistency is not exciting. It is repetitive. It is unglamorous. It is often lonely. It means waking up early when you want to sleep. It means practicing when you feel uninspired. It means choosing discipline over comfort. And sometimes, it feels like nobody notices. But the truth is, every time you show up, even in silence, even in struggle, you are rewriting your future. Consistency is also an act of self-love. Because every time you keep your word to yourself, you are proving that you can be trusted by the most important person in your life, you. And when you build that trust, when you build that discipline, you become unstoppable. Because it is not talent that creates success. It is not luck. It is persistence. It is showing up when it's boring, when it's tiring, when it's inconvenient. That is where strength is forged. So when you look at people who inspire you, do not be fooled by their highlight moments. Behind every speech, every achievement, every victory, there are countless hours of unseen consistency. And you must ask yourself, am I willing to show up even when it's not glamorous? Am I willing to plant the seeds daily, knowing the harvest may take years? Am I willing to choose the slow, patient path of progress instead of the quick thrill of intensity? Because at the end of the day, success doesn't come to those who work hard once. It comes to those who refuse to stop working hard every single day. They tell us from a young age that education comes from classrooms, that wisdom comes from books. That knowledge belongs to the pages we read and the degrees we earn. And while books are beautiful, while classrooms can shape us, let us never forget life itself is the greatest teacher we will ever have. The lessons that shape your soul rarely come from paper. They come from people, from pain, from mistakes, from moments that tear you apart and moments that heal you. A book can teach you the definition of courage, but only life can teach you what courage feels like when you stand trembling in the face of fear. A classroom can give you theories of resilience, but only life can teach you resilience when you lose everything you thought you couldn't live without, yet still wake up and decide to try again. A lecture can explain hope, but only life can show you hope when the darkest night refuses to end and suddenly, The smallest ray of light finds its way to you. Every smile you receive, every betrayal you endure, every challenge you face, these are chapters of a curriculum designed only for you. And the beauty is, there are no final exams here. The only test is how you choose to respond. Do you give up when life gets difficult? Or do you lean in and say, this too is a lesson? Some of the wisest people I have ever met never sat in a university. Some of the strongest souls I have seen never held a degree. They learned from the school of life. They learned from hunger, from rejection, from heartbreak, from standing back up after every fall. They did not have the privilege of libraries filled with books, but they had the library of experience carved into their skin, into their hearts, into their stories. And isn't that the truth? Life educates us in ways no book can. When you lose a loved one, you learn the value of time. When you fail publicly, you learn humility. When you are betrayed, you learn discernment. When you struggle, you learn gratitude for little things. No author, no professor, no textbook could have given you that knowledge. Because these lessons are not written in ink. They are written in tears, in scars, in triumphs, in the silence of nights when nobody sees your pain but you. But here's the challenge: many people live their entire lives without truly learning from life. They go through hardship, but instead of growing, they become bitter. They face rejection, but instead of gaining resilience, they build walls around their hearts. They face failure, but instead of seeing it as a stepping stone, they carry it like a weight forever. Life keeps teaching, but they refuse to listen. You see, it's not enough to experience life. You must reflect, you must observe, you must choose to be a student of it. Every setback whispers wisdom, but only if you pause long enough to hear it. Every disappointment carries a lesson, but only if you are willing to open it like a gift. Every person you meet, whether they love you or hurt you, has something to teach you about who you are and who you can become. And here's the most powerful part: when you decide to treat life as your teacher, you will never be uneducated, no matter where you come from, no matter what resources you lack. A single mother raising her children alone may never have studied philosophy, but she knows the philosophy of sacrifice better than any textbook. A man who has worked with his hands all his life may never have read a book on perseverance, but his kalaus palms hold stories of perseverance deeper than any words on paper. A child who learns to smile despite poverty carries a wisdom about joy that money can never buy. So, don't confine your learning to pages and classrooms. Look around you, look within you. Every sunrise is a lesson in hope. Every sunset is a lesson in letting go. Every storm is a lesson in endurance. Every flower blooming after the storm is a lesson in patience. Life is a living, breathing library, and every moment is an unread page waiting for your attention. But here's the secret. Learning from life requires humility, because it means admitting you don't know everything. It means being open enough to say, even this painful moment has something to teach me. It means honoring the wisdom of elders, listening to the voices of children, observing the silence of nature, and respecting even those who hurt you, because sometimes they are the ones who shape your resilience the most. And so, when you walk through your days, ask yourself, what lesson is this moment trying to teach me? What wisdom lies hidden in this pain, in this joy, in this delay, in this unexpected turn? Because once you begin to see life this way, you will realize that education never ends. The diploma may hang on the wall, the certificate may fade, but the lessons of life, those stay with you forever. They travel with you, they grow with you. They shape you into someone no classroom could have designed. We live in a world that glorifies perfection. A world where people post only the best versions of themselves, filtered and polished. As if flaws are something to be ashamed of. We are taught to wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect version of ourselves before we begin. And in chasing that illusion of perfection, so many of us never even start. But here's the truth: perfection is not real. Growth is real. Progress is real. Movement, no matter how small, is real. The problem with perfection is that it paralyzes us. It whispers, you're not ready yet, you're not good enough yet. Don't try until you are flawless. But life doesn't reward perfection. It rewards courage. It rewards those who dare to begin, even while trembling, even while unsure, even while messy. Because the act of beginning is itself an act of bravery. Look at nature. Have you ever seen a tree stop growing because its branches weren't symmetrical? Have you ever seen a river refuse to flow because its path wasn't straight? No. Nature doesn't care about perfection. It only cares about growth. A flower does not wait to bloom until it is flawless. It blooms because it is time, because it was created to. And in its imperfect shape, In its fragile petals, it is still breathtakingly beautiful. So why do we, as human beings, hold ourselves back, demanding perfection before progress? Why do we silence our dreams? Because they are not polished enough to show the world. The truth is, nobody ever begins as a masterpiece. Every artist first painted something they were embarrassed by. Every writer first wrote something they wished nobody would read. Every leader once stumbled in front of a crowd. Every strong person you admire once began weak. It is not perfection that shapes them. It is growth. It is the willingness to improve day after day. It is the courage to look at yesterday's mistakes not as proof of failure, but as stepping stones toward becoming better. Growth is messy. Growth is imperfect. Growth is painful. But growth is honest, and it is in that honesty where transformation happens. Perfection says, do not show your cracks. But growth says, show your cracks, for they are proof that light has entered you. Perfection hides the scars. Growth celebrates them as evidence that you fought, you endured, you healed. Perfection is about performance for the world. Growth is about progress for yourself. And isn't that the ultimate goal? To be better than who you were yesterday, not to be flawless today. Imagine if a child learning to walk demanded perfection. Imagine if they said, I will only take a step when I am sure I will never fall. That child would never walk. It is the falling, the stumbling, the failing that teaches balance. In the same way, your failures are not proof that you are unworthy. They are proof that you are growing. We must remind ourselves perfection is a prison. Growth is freedom. When you wait for perfection, you chain yourself to stillness. But when you embrace growth, you give yourself permission to move forward, even if it is clumsy, even if it is slow. And little by little, step by step, you evolve into someone you never imagined you could become. I often say, do not compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. Because comparison feeds the lie of perfection. You see their polished versions, not their struggles, not their sleepless nights, not their 1,000 failed attempts. And when you compare your raw beginnings to their refined success, you convince yourself you are not enough. But you are not supposed to be perfect. You are supposed to be growing. So instead of asking, am I perfect yet? Ask yourself, am I progressing? Am I better today than I was yesterday? That is the only standard that matters. And progress, no matter how small, is worth celebrating. Because small progress builds confidence, and confidence builds momentum, and momentum builds transformation. There is a Japanese concept called wabi-sabi, the beauty of imperfection. It reminds us that cracks, flaws, and irregularities are not ugly. They are beautiful, because they tell a story. A broken bowl repaired with gold is more valuable, not less, because of its cracks. And in the same way, your growth through imperfections makes you more powerful, not less. You are not meant to be flawless. You are meant to be authentic. You are meant to stumble and learn, to fall and rise, to break and rebuild, stronger each time. You are meant to grow, not to perform perfection for a world that itself is imperfect. And so I ask you, what are you waiting for? What dream are you keeping hidden because it isn't perfect yet? What step are you delaying because you are afraid of stumbling? What version of yourself are you waiting to become before you start living fully? Life will not wait for you to be perfect. It will move forward anyway. The only question is, will you grow with it? Because the ones who transform the world are not the perfect ones. They are the growing ones. They are the ones who dared to start messy, who embraced the journey, who learned from every failure, and who understood that progress, not perfection, is the true measure of a life well lived. When we talk about empowerment, people often think it comes from the outside, from recognition, from validation, from someone handing you an opportunity. But the deepest, truest empowerment is not given. It is earned, it is created, and it begins with you choosing to educate yourself every single day. Because when you commit to daily self-education, you are not just learning. You are building a foundation of confidence that no one can shake. You stop depending on the approval of others because you know you carry wisdom within. You stop waiting for the world to tell you that you are enough because you know every day you are becoming stronger, smarter, wiser than before. Empowerment is not about being the loudest in the room. It is about being so deeply grounded in who you are that no storm can uproot you. And self-education is the soil that keeps you grounded. It feeds your mind with knowledge. It feeds your heart with perspective. It feeds your soul with resilience. When you educate yourself, you begin to see possibilities where others see problems. You begin to find solutions where others only complain. You begin to rise above fear because you understand that ignorance breeds fear, but knowledge builds courage. Fear whispers, you can't. But self-education responds, Watch me learn how. Think about it every time you pick up a book, every time you listen to a story, every time you learn a new skill. You are sharpening your weapon against self-doubt. You are proving to yourself that growth is always possible, that progress is always within reach. And that belief, that unshakable belief in your ability to learn and grow, is empowerment in its purest form. And here's the most beautiful truth: nobody can take it away from you. They can take your job, they can take your possessions, they can take your comfort, but they cannot take what you have taught yourself, what you have experienced, what you have learned from the battles of your own life. That is why self-education is not just power, it is freedom. Empowerment through self-education is also contagious. When you choose to grow, when you choose to learn daily, you don't just change yourself, you inspire others. A mother who teaches herself new skills shows her children that resilience is possible. A young girl who educates herself daily becomes a symbol of strength for every other girl told she is not enough. A man who refuses to stop learning, even after failure, becomes a light for others stuck in darkness. Your growth becomes a spark, and that spark has the power to ignite others. And maybe that is the real purpose of self-education. Not only to empower yourself, but to empower the world around you. Because the world does not change through speeches alone, it changes when individuals commit to their own growth, and then lead others through their example. So, let me remind you, empowerment is not a gift. It is not something you wait for, it is a choice. A choice you make every single day when you decide to keep learning, to keep rising, to keep expanding your mind and your heart, no matter what life throws at you. And as you walk this journey of daily self-education, remember the 5 truths we've uncovered: that knowledge is liberation, setting you free from ignorance and fear; that consistency over intensity builds strength quietly, day after day; that life itself is the greatest teacher, offering lessons far beyond books; that growth matters more than perfection, because progress is more powerful than flawlessness; and finally, that self-education is empowerment, a force that not only lifts you up but inspires others to rise with you. So, never wait for the world to hand you power. Create it, cultivate it, educate yourself daily, and watch how the chains of doubt and fear fall away. You are not powerless. You are not incomplete. You are becoming every single day. And that, my friends, is the true power of daily self-education.